What's poppin', players? Welcome back to a Two Penny Game Club review. This is your monthly video game book club where me and the boys sit down and we rank and review video games of yore randomly decided by, the great spinner wheel. And once a month, we come to you, youtube.com/@2pennygames and twitch.tv/2pennygames live Sunday at 4 p.m. with our review of the monthly game that we've decided. I am your host, Tavin Bothel, here with my good friends and buddies. Say hello to the people, Connor, Elliott.
Hello again to myself that's going to be in the future, but at this point is in the past.
Yeah, I'm sure that made sense. You would also know what he just meant if you were watching live at twitch.tv/2pennygames. But also, say hello to the people, Phil Shoemaker.
Hello, it's me. I'm Phil. Connor, I don't know if you know this. People like it when you wear the red shirt on the show.
I've seen the comments. It's why I popped it out for today. I cannot give you the Connor guarantee that that'll always be the case, but I can guarantee you that it'll be the case for all day today.
I think, and I feel like I wear this green shirt on most recording days. It's just something I happen to select. It's a favorite of mine or whatever. So if it's like red shirt guy, green shirt guy, and then hat guy, that works, you know?
By the way, that's blue, not green.
That's definitely green.
It's 100% green.
Definitely green, Connor.
100%.
Maybe I should check and see if I have color blindness.
You could maybe go for like maybe some teal.
Teal. Yeah, that's...
In the Discord, it looks more. It's got more blue in it than in real life. In real life, it's very blue or very green. Excuse me.
Very green in real life. Yeah, I've seen that shirt in real life, so maybe that's why I know it as a green shirt.
Yeah,
okay, good. I'm not going colorblind.
Yeah, I mean, you still might want to check it, because it's still it's still
I'm
pretty
fine.
green,
I've seen the image with the number in it. I'm good.
Gentlemen, we are here to talk about Arkane's Prey. Prey was released on May 5th, 2017. It had first week sales of about 180,000 units. From what I can find, with a really quick Google search and some Reddit commenters, selling about 1.3 million lifetime, and has a 97. I'm sorry, excuse me, that's correct. I have those backwards. 79 on Metacritic. Gentlemen, I want to start first, and I'm very excited to talk about this today. It took me about 20 hours to beat Prey. And as a fan of arcane games, as a fan of stealth games, as a fan of survival horror and resource management and all of these things, it breaks my heart, but Prey was incredibly disappointing and incredibly frustrating for me. It has all of the makings of a game that I should love. On paper, on pitch, I should love this game, and I unfortunately just found it super, super frustrating. The best way I can put it in my head is that all the ingredients are here for a masterpiece of a video game, but they're all in the wrong proportions. It's a little too aggressive and a little too actiony in the combat. There's too many enemies, and they all do way too much damage, and they're way too aggressive. For the limited number of resources that you have. I don't think the character outputs enough damage until later third of the game. And I think that for how restrictive your resources are, I just think there's just way too many enemies to counterbalance that. On top of that, oddly enough, from an arcane game, I understand this isn't like the main arcane guys who did Dishonored and who did Deathloop, but the stealth mechanics in this game are severely lacking. I never felt like I had any real idea of when I was being sneaky or not. It just kind of felt like the enemies would detect me at random moments. I never felt in control when I was trying to lurk in the shadows. The player movement is too slow, regardless of the upgrades that you can get to increase that. All of the upgrades simultaneously all feel detrimentally necessary and completely useless at the same time, where I absolutely need to get the upgrades to where I can lift heavier things, or get the upgrades to where I can hack more technology, or get some of the cool mutant powers like turning into coffee cups, or having a kinetic blast, or the electricity powers and all of this. All of that feels useful, and yet in implementation, none of it feels like it's effective, which is just mind-boggling to me. However, this is an Arkane game, and they are master craftsmen in atmosphere, in world building, and in level design, and that still shows here. The level design is still really, really good. You feel like you can really get a hang of everything on the Talos 1 station. Is that what it's called?
Yeah,
Yep.
the Talos one.
Talos 1. You really feel like you can get a hang of where everything is. You really feel like it was an actual space station that people lived on. And the story and the backstory and the world created in this game, I think, are really, really interesting and really cool. So much to the fact that even though for more than half the playtime, I was constantly frustrated and angry at the gameplay, which did let up in the later half, and I did start finding it a little more enjoyable. But that first half was so frustrating and rage-inducing that it sort of turned my brain off to the storytelling they were giving me, because I just wanted to get through this experience as fast as possible. I found myself playing podcasts in the background, and this is not a podcast game. But just to be able to get myself through this experience, I found myself like listening to podcasts. And so it wasn't so frustrating. Now, again, when the gameplay started balancing itself out in the later half and I started having a better time with it, I did, turn those off, and I started catching up and reading the emails and reading all of the notes scattered throughout and listening to all the dialogue and all the audio devices and so forth. But it took way too long to get to that point, and even when it did get to that point, it wasn't enough. It was still, like, I wouldn't describe the later half of this game as fun. I would describe it as tolerable. And now that we're here, at the end of my playthrough, even though credits rolled, and it was an incredible post-credit scene. Phenomenal post-credit scene. That really gave me the hook of, like, oh, man, I want to see other endings, and I want to see all the side content I skipped and missed out on. I just kept replaying in my head those first 8 to 10 hours of just banging my head against this wall and not having any fun at all during it. And it hurts to say I want to love Prey, but I really don't, and it's a heartbreaker for me.
Damn.
Yeah.
Pretty well said.
Hardest you've been on a game, I think, so far on this. Well, yeah.
On the
hardest
Game
you've been
Club, on the Game Club for
Club.
sure. On the Game Club for sure. I think the only other game that I think I've been harsher to is Callisto Protocol last year. Phil,
Sorry, can we go to Connor? I gotta be right back.
Oh, Phil's got to go run and do something real quick. Okay, Connor, talk to me about Prey. Real quick, I'm going to shout out to Cinnamon Butter 89, who's watching us on twitch.tv/Two Penny Games, and dropped us a follow. Thank you so much, Cinnamon Butter.
Thanks. Cinnamon butter is good. It's a good taste.
It is indeed. It is indeed. Connor, what were your opinions on Prey?
Well, it's actually pretty similar to a lot of yours, but with some key differences. So you are right. The beginning of the game just doesn't really work. Well, you know what? Let me start off with the good parts of the game. Okay. Because I actually did enjoy my time with this game. It started off not really taking me in all that well, though the level design is fantastic. As you said, Arkane just does it again. They are able to create an environment that allows you to, have your central hub area that takes you to all of these different locations, but then offer you to go into zero gravity to traverse more of the station and more efficient ways to get around some of the enemies that start popping up in later parts of the game. Seeing how this is it marketed as a stealth game, so it kind of advocates for you to do more stealth. But I actually found a lot of the enjoyment of the combat, of the gameplay, to be when you just kind of went all out and just ignored the stealth elements, which just the only thing I'll say on it, since I didn't really partake in stealth all that much, is it's not that great. As you said, it's pretty bare bones. Leaning around a corner and turning into coffee cups is like the only two stealth mechanics in this game that have any interest whatsoever. So it really does kind of incentivize you just to kind of go guns blazing or tools blazing or powers blazing, whatever playstyle you decide to do through the game. Because I do think that the stealth really holds it back as a game, if that's the way you do it. And, I understand if you don't like it because that's what you were expecting to come into with this game, being a stealth game, and then you were disappointed. I can easily see that because I would not play this game. I would not enjoy this game if I had to go through the entire thing stealthy. The story was very interesting. The environment, great environmental storytelling that just kind of didn't. It wasn't like Dark Souls where it leaves pretty much everything up to the interpretation of how things go. It actually involved other characters that you can find throughout the station, but it wasn't a lot. So it was nice, whenever you would find some kind of survivor and you can do little side contents related to their quest to, get your morality points up. Which, being an arcade game, that is still the case in this one. I think to a much. It works very well thematically, but as far as a function of the game itself, it didn't really. It kind of came off as very, not cringy, but very pushed, particularly at the end of the game, which I actually didn't like. I found the ending to be incredibly rushed, and then kind of had an aspect of it that I hate when stories do. Without spoiling it, I was not a fan of that at all. So it kind of made me go, and soured my gameplay experience as far as my story experience with the game. I didn't really partake in many of the powers, which is what a lot of the game kind of pushes you to do, since you're fighting organisms that have special powers, and the story elements are tied up in that, and how you're making these things called neuromods that give you the powers and increase your abilities. In the real world of Prey, and also from a gameplay mechanics, but it does have some drawbacks to it, like allowing you to be shot by your own turrets. So for that reason, I was completely just like, nah, I don't want to do this. I'll focus on doing all of my hacking skills and my gunsmithing skills, which, when the game focuses on those elements, which is directly tied into resource management, because you have a lot of different items that you can find around the game, recycle them, and then use the materials that you get from those recyclables to make things like ammo, to make things like weapon upgrade kits, to make things like more neuromods, to just progress your character further and further and further. And I found that even though it has kind of a survival element to it, particularly because it highlights it in the hard mode, like scrounging around is a lot more of a common thing that you're going to have to do. In the normal mode of the game that I played, I felt like there was an abundance of materials in the game. It kind of
Okay.
and I went, like I said, I went guns blazing. I used ammo all the time. I used recycler grenades, powers, and whatnot. And I ran out of things in the environment to use and to recycle at the very end of the game. Like, it seemed the moment I went into the final confrontation, that's when I had a full inventory. And I didn't even really need the full inventory, but I had it, and it seemed like the game perfectly gave you enough to allow you to do a stealth in the normal mode, to do a stealth based gameplay where you're going to be more conservative with the materials you have, but also incentivizes you to also do more loud and proud gameplay, which is what I did. That shotgun saved my life. Unfortunately, a lot of the weapons in this game aren't really interesting. It kind of comes out from the get-go with something called the glue gun that allows you to immobilize your targets and either dispatch them more easily or get away from them, depending on your play style. But after that, I found it to be pretty generic in what they offered you. Pistols, shotguns, you have your basic wrench, you have your stun gun, you have a crossbow gun that is used for stealth gameplay to distract enemies, to press buttons and things like that. But as someone who didn't use the powers, so I don't get shot at by turrets and whatnot, and possibly get a better ending, since I didn't know if all that was tied into what story ending you got, which I did try to go for the normal, the good ending, the most empathetic ending, as it's called, which I succeeded. And so I was kind of cut off from a lot of what the game has to offer. And I don't really regret it. But I just wish that first half of the game didn't sour my experience as it did, because it did. Yeah, I had to push myself through it because I was getting frustrated at combat encounters because you move so slowly. The upgrades on your guns haven't really kicked in, so it's not doing a lot of damage. So it really does make you do stealth, which is when you have a game that doesn't have that great of a stealth system, you really start to feel it on the back end of things. But thankfully, like I said, that kind of alleviated later on, which is why during my time with this game, my feelings on it elevated continuously. Not ever to a point where I would say this is, an amazing game or even a great game. I just think it was a good, solid game that has a lot of really highly respectable aspects of it. Like I said, the world design, the level building, the resource management system, but also just the combat and some of the story decisions at the end of the game kind of ended up not making as great of an experience as Arkane usually delivers with a lot of their other games, particularly Dishonored, which is my main experience with Arkane's catalog.
Phil, where are you at with Prey?
Yeah, I started out this game like I do most games, at least like games that are out of my usual vernacular, and wasn't really having a great time. But then eventually I did get to a point where I got into the groove somewhere around like early to mid game, like after maybe the first third, where I was like just in the groove of it and understanding the systems. And yeah, like y'all have said, the stealth in this game, terrible stealth mechanics, especially like when you think about like Arcane as a studio. Like their biggest games that I think of, like Deathloop, Dishonored, they have very heavy stealth mechanics where like there's a whole area in Deathloop where like if you get seen, everything's on high alert and you have to restart. You know, it's tough. And then, I mean, same for Dishonored. There's whole bits where you have to go without being seen, otherwise something gets triggered, and you're not going to be able to do the certain thing do this thing the way you wanted to do it. You know, I feel like this game probably has the least punishing stealth mechanics. I don't know. I mean, like, as in, it doesn't have good stealth, but that also doesn't really matter because there's nothing in this game that requires you to really stealth that much, you know, whereas other Arcane games, they have more of a focus on stealth, where this one feels like the stealth is more of an afterthought, where it's like, oh yeah, you can sneak around, but it's just not really worth it. The most I used it was to like sneak up behind somebody and get a critical with my wrench, you know. It's the most I really used it for, to like initiate combat, you know. But yeah, like y'all have said, I would mostly just go through guns blazing. Like I would run through, I would use the kinetic blast. I would use my shotgun like crazy. Made a shit ton of neuromods. I think I looked at my like after, because that gives you like a report for like how long it took you to beat the game, how many neuromods you made, all that stuff. It took me a little under 29 hours to finish my playthrough. Wow. It was 28 hours, 45 minutes. I also got the most empathetic playthrough. I crafted a total I installed a total of 165 neuromods. You know, because some of them require multiple to upgrade, you know. Mm-hmm. Yeah, overall, I'd say I had a pretty solid time with this game. It's not... I feel like a lot of the enemies, like kind of how Tavin was saying, they're very bullet spongy. And it sometimes feels like you're not really making any progress if you're like in the middle of like a big fight, which is weird because you'd think that, oh, you can't really fight some of these guys head on. Let me try to be stealthy. But even then, it doesn't really do anything. So it's like, what am I supposed to just try to avoid everything? Which makes it really hard when certain things like you have like your some of the phantoms have, which like the bigger like walking enemies, they have elements tied to them, and if you get too close to them, they'll start hurting you. So it's like, yeah, oh, I can try to sneak by this person, but it's gonna hurt me because I get too close, and then I have to waste through a bunch of like suit repair kits to fix my suit. Otherwise, I'm gonna take even more damage, and it feels like it feels like an Ouroboros eating its own tail, you know, where at some point it doesn't continue to grow. It just gets shorter and shorter. It's like, okay, well, I might as well just run through everywhere shooting indiscriminately, you know. And as far as like what you're saying, level design and the design of the Talus One and how lived in it feels, I love this environment. This is one of my favorite environments in an Arcane game, if not my favorite, because I love space stuff and I love like these big empty halls. It's so atmospheric and creepy. And I'll kind of get to like more of the creepiness and how like this is almost like a horror game aspect later. But this like I said is probably my favorite Arcane setting. Like this abandoned space station, like a bunch of people are dead. There's very little survivors. You're being
I might agree
overrun. Yeah, you're being overrun by all these little like kind of radioactive creatures that like fuck with you. As far as like the horror aspect of this game, there were some very intense moments that were aided by like the soundtrack to this game, like the music in the background, the lighting that they use, and there was one that got me really bad, and it was using one of those screens. You know, like you can like look through the screen. You like turn on a screen to like read this thing, and then like it kind of cuts the static once, and then it comes back, and then it cuts the static again, and then it's a jump scare of a phantom that's like right in front of you, and it got me so good. And
I know the moment you're talking about. Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, that was a big one that got me. And then another thing I did, because I'm a bitch baby when it comes to horror games, so I had to turn on the scope neuromod that lets you see hidden mimics. So like you can identify something on the thing that is a mimic. I was like, oh, that's a mimic. So now it's like, you're not gonna scare me this time, fucker. So I just pull out my pistol and shoot it, or I'll glue gun it or whatever. That being said, I really like the glue gun. I think the glue gun is probably one of my favorite like non-damaging weapons in a video game. It's just a lot of fun. I like keeping people still. I like that you can use it for traversal. I think that's really neat. You can make your own little pathways along walls and stuff like that to go between floors, which I only did a few times. I just mostly had fun spraying stuff, and like I like how it had a practical use to it. I like some of these guns that have like practical use that I guess maybe wasn't. It's not something you would think whenever you're like, oh, this gun holds things in place. Oh, I can make pathways for myself. That's pretty neat. The story of this game was interesting. That's about all I can really say about it. I don't really know. I wasn't the biggest fan of it. I don't think. Like, there's just some silliness, you know. Like there's just, it feels like stuff just happens just to happen. Like there's that military guy that just kind of shows up towards like the end of the game. And he has those drones that come in and start hunting you down, which is annoying as fuck.
Yep.
The way that they just keep spawning and spawning, and if you don't have your hacking high enough, you can't even do anything to them.
You can because they spawn in the operator crafters.
Right, so you can like plug them up. You can plug up the holes.
Yeah.
But like,
or just shove a bunch of shit in front of it, rather. But yeah.
Right. I didn't think about until after I'd beaten the game, because I had heard somebody else talking about it or something like that.
I figured that out in the area with the ship that you got to get on. And there's like 3 operator printers in that one fucking room,
Dude,
and I just
oh my god, it was so bad. I was trying to like sneak in that one like office room, and I was like looking out through the window, and I was like, oh fuck, they saw me, and then they all just came around the corner and fucking started flame throwing me and doing the beam and shit, you know.
I'm sorry, I'm not cutting into your review.
I'm not. You're not cutting anything off. Go ahead.
Okay. One thing that very disappointed me in this game was the enemy. Enemy design and enemy variety. Because it comes out the gate with the mimic, which used marketing. If you remember, back whenever the hell they were marketing this game, being able to hide as any object was very cool. It always kept you. Ideally, it would keep you on your toes. Admittedly, the horror elements, even I wouldn't call it a horror game. I'd call it a thriller game. And even then, I don't think it really succeeded in that way either. It really does not only just feel like an action game when I played through it based off how my playstyle was, but it suits it more because those scary elements just aren't there for me.
See, and I understand that, and I even played it to that point of with the action game, but the systems they put in this game like do not want you to play it as an action game. But it's just the way those systems are crafted, it doesn't function as the type of game they want you to play it as.
Yeah, it like works against itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, and but the mimic's very interesting, enemy to have in your game. But after that point, as you guys said before, the phantoms come in different elemental flavors, and then you have these giant floating guys that also come in different elementals.
They were such terrible bullet sponges, dude. Like, even trying to do what it says their weakness is barely even does anything.
I think it was
to where you would do. I would do kinetic blast and then just spam shotgun.
The only one I had an easy time dealing with is the technology-based one, where you pull out the little electric gun and zap it, pump a few shells, zap it, pump a few shells.
EMP as well works for that.
Yeah, and like to Connor's points about the mimics are cool from an idea standpoint. Like, and at first, I think they're really, really cool and interesting and add a lot of tension to the overall gameplay, but there just comes a point where it's just like, motherfucker, enough. I'm sick of it. Like, they're just, again, like, I feel like there's way too many enemies in every single room that there's no like room to breathe. So it's like, why are there 2 phantoms and 6 mimics in this one fucking room?
Oh, another thing, another bit that scared the fuck out of me, the first time that you ran into the nightmare.
That confused me. I was like, what's going on here?
What happened to me is, so a couple things kind of back to back that happened to me is I went from the Arboretum on the lift to go down back to the lobby. And on my way down, a phantom interrupted my elevator and showed up in the middle of the floor and fucking scared the fuck out of me. So I just fucking hammered it or wrenched it to death because it just popped out of nowhere and I was just beating the ever living shit out of it.
A phantom did that?
A phantom, yeah.
It did that to me too. Did you get resources from
scripted.
killing it? Because I didn't get resources from killing it.
I don't remember.
Which made me think that Morgan was losing or not Morgan, you?
Yeah,
Morgan.
Morgan.
Yeah, it made me feel like Morgan was losing his mind, his or her.
His name's Morgan Yu.
Yeah. Oh, okay, got you. And I was like, oh, are we like losing some psychic? And it kind of plays into the ending a little bit, but like,
Right.
It's moments like that where I'm like, y'all had an idea, but we didn't quite get there.
Yeah, so on that elevator ride, I got interrupted. Then I killed the phantom. Then I got down, and then all of a sudden I hear the nightmares roar, and it's right outside the fucking elevator, like at me. I was like, "Holy shit!" And you can't go back up because there's another phantom fucking with the electronics. So I was just in the elevator watching them as they were outside the glass, and I was like, "Oh my god!" So I just had to like book it to my office, and it was so rough.
That actually, you could have just stayed in the elevator because that did happen to me at one point, and I just sat in there, and he just
Did they just leave?
ran the clock. Yeah, it runs out the clock after a while.
Yeah,
you survive a certain amount of
The
time.
mimic's only in the room for like 3 minutes, and then it just goes away.
Oh, the nightmare.
Yeah,
Nightmare.
or the nightmare. Excuse me. Yeah, the nightmare to me is the exact point of what I'm talking about, where it's too aggressive. It has too many abilities. Your character doesn't move fast enough, doesn't take enough damage, doesn't output enough damage. The first time I came across a nightmare, I just fucking hid in a room and waited for 3 minutes, and it knew where I was. It just couldn't get in the room, and so it's like throwing its psychic or its kinetic blasts like at the door and shit, and it's just roaring. And I'm like, I don't feel like I'm engaging with these systems. I feel like I'm breaking them to get through it.
And to your point about you not being able to output that much damage to them, if you just throw those recycler charges at it, it decimates it. The nightmare,
really?
even from like a gameplay mechanic, it was not intimidating at all after the first encounter. Because once you realize,
it was only the first time that scared me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like, oh, this shit again. You know, after it happens again, you're like, oh, this again.
You know what, guys?
That's
There's something I need to point out. So if you guys remember, Prey wasn't going to be this game originally. There was a game back in, I think, 2005.
I knew you were going to talk about
yes,
this.
Yes. In 2005, I didn't play that game, so I
You're
can't.
the
speak
only
too much
one in the
on
world
that.
who cares about this.
I am not. I am not the only one who does.
2005, right?
Yes, that's beside the point, though. That's really just the first game in the series. The second Prey, it was Prey 2 is originally what this was going to be called. It was somewhat connected to this by some guy who got abducted by aliens, because the first game's about aliens. Different ones, completely different ones. And the premise of the second game that we only saw a bit of gameplay from and a trailer for. A trailer that is one of the best video game trailers that has ever been released. I still say that to this day. No, it's not okay. It's great. Because you were going to play as an extraterrestrial bounty hunter on another planet after you were taken there against your will. And I was super hyped for that game. It was going to be so cool, and then it got canceled because it didn't live up to Bethesda standards, whatever that means. Seeing as their standards are low nowadays, but
it had Beyond Good and Evil vibe, Beyond Good and Evil 2 vibes all over.
No, it did not. No, it did
all
not.
over.
No, this was actually, Beyond Good and Evil. You couldn't tell what they're doing with it. Besides going off of the first game, Prey 2, you knew you were going to be hunting people down, people that deserved it, and it was such a cool premise. And I remember being vehemently disappointed when this trailer for this game came out. And I saw the concept of it, and I was like, some people were like, wow, it's going to be so cool. It looks like an interesting horror game. I had a sour, yes, and I was sour the entire time. And playing through this game, that was kind of, this is unfair. It's an unfair criticism. It's not factoring into where I would place it on our list. But the entire time I was thinking to myself, I wish I was playing Prey 2 instead of this.
So Tavin, I'm watching it in the
disappointing.
B-roll. How fucking frustrating is this hacking?
Yeah, it's not very good.
It's very frustrating.
It reminds me of
at least like the first like 5 times that I was trying to do it, it was so frustrating. I got a feel for it eventually.
Yeah,
but
it kind of feels like you're just brute forcing your way through it.
Yeah,
and it feels like it was designed for a mouse. Is what it was. Like it should be a mouse thing, not a controller thing. And so it's very uncomfortable on the stick. And granted, this game is on PC, so like maybe we just played it on the wrong platform or whatever.
Maybe. No. Okay, I played it on my PC, right?
Oh, did you?
And when I was doing those hacking segments, I kept thinking to myself, because you can only use the WASD key. And I was thinking the entire time, this is probably way better on a controller. This is what it was made for. This is annoying.
So I guess it's just bad.
I mean, it's probably better on a controller than WASD, but it should be on the mouse.
Sure.
Why is it
yeah,
on
it's
WASD? That's awful.
Unless I just didn't use it. I remember trying it out.
Yeah.
And so unless there was a mechanical mishap where I'm just stupid, it was not connected to the mouse at all.
Yeah,
So,
it was very, very frustrating.
boys, let's talk story, and we're gonna go ahead and get into spoiler territory. If you want to play this game, we're sorry we're kind of like harping on it so hard.
This
Go
game's
play
also
it.
6 years old. Go play it.
Yeah, it's a little old. Like if you're listening to this, you should have already played it and been a fan of it or whatever. I'm sorry if we tore apart one of your favorite games.
Do we call 6-year-olds old?
6-year-old games?
6-year-old games are old. Yeah.
6-year-old people.
I would say Prey is old. Arcane has put out 2 games since this game. They have new console generation.
It's not a decade yet. That's when you need a game.
This is the same. This is the same like separation in terms of games as Halo 3 to Halo 1. So I would say Halo 1 is old compared to Halo 3.
Fair enough.
That's a weird place to go with it, but okay.
Two games is 2 more games you said. So
yeah. So I think the story in this game is okay. The thing is like, it's one of those games that's like, all right, here's the scenario. You're going to go do this, and then we're going to fill it out with just like, hey, this thing's broken, go fix it. Hey, this thing's broken, go fix it. Hey, this thing's broken, go fix it. It's sort of a structure I think Dead Space does way better. Because I think Dead Space has a better mystery, and in terms of like what happened here, what are the sort of, what is the information behind it? I feel like maybe they give you too much information about what is the name of this species?
Typhon.
They give you too much Typhon information too quickly, and they should have parsed it out more or a little better. And it's just like, it's so much of like, hey, this door's locked, you gotta go all the way to this other wing to go do that. So like the meat of the story is pretty video gamey, but I think the beginning and the end are really interesting. And I really, really liked the ending. I do agree that it did feel rushed, especially because you're given a final choice, and then you make that choice, and it hard cuts to a results screen, which is very, very weird. But I enjoyed moments of it. Like, I think the character writing is pretty solid. It's just the plot isn't.
So, the end credits scene.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's the... I think a story, a whole story can't be marked bad, but an ending can be marked bad if it does what Prey does. It was all a simulation.
Yeah.
It's dumb. It's stupid. It's dumb. And it ties in the morality checking system with robots, and it just... Any impact that those emotional choices that you make, the moral choices, are supposed to have impact at the end of the day. Like when they question you, and when you have just robots. Here's my robot talking to you. You did thing that was good.
I didn't see that. Like, they're not robots; they're people talking. Like it's like
through
Skype,
them.
It's a Skype call. Like, and they're using the robots as avatars. But there are real people on the other end of it.
See, well, that's the thing. It kind of just makes like any of that connection that game tried to establish, because I did do the empathetic route, was me just being like, okay, these guys are just robots to me, because they're why did they need to be robots? They didn't need to be at all. Yeah, they could have just not done that. It was more of the fact though that it was the simulation. That's stupid. Even and especially because the game does kind of hard cut off, as you said, Tavin. So it doesn't allow you to come to that conclusion in any really interesting way. You just are all of a sudden strapped down, and you're like, "Oh, we're talking about you as though you're not human." I'm like, "Oh, I guess I'm."
Did either of you go back and replay and make the quote unquote evil choice at the end of that?
Which one's that?
So you're given a choice at the end, where like it's basically like you're gonna be the savior and help them like take back Earth or whatever, or just kill everybody in the room. And and it's the most awkward kill everybody in the room thing ever, because it's like you grab your brother, you like stab him with a tentacle, he falls down, and then it hard cuts, and I'm like, that was awkward. That was so awkward. Like that we just did not stay in this beat for any longer.
I of course just did the handshake thing.
Yeah.
I did that and then just reloaded my save and did it again.
No.
But yeah, Connor, normally I agree with you, like, oh, it's all a simulation or it's all a dream. Like, normally that doesn't work for me. I think the reason it works for me here is because it's still within the world. Like, it's not like, oh, the Typhons never existed. No, the Typhons exist. No. In fact, they've taken back Earth. And sort of the backstory that Morgan and the brother have, like, is still
Alex.
real. Morgan and Alex have that backstory is still real. They just don't. The only thing that's not real is the part that the player sees.
Right.
That's all. I mean, you say Alex and Morgan. You're not playing as Morgan. You're playing as a human Typhon hybrid that is taking on the personality of Morgan.
I thought Morgan had put so many neuromods into themselves that they had lost themselves completely, because they like wipe they wipe their mind, and they wipe like their memory, and like reset.
The actual Morgan is dead.
Oh, okay.
It did.
Well,
Yeah, they did talk about Morgan as like past tense.
Yeah,
Like, this
the
is
actual Morgan is dead. You're a human Typhon hybrid.
isn't it what Morgan was is dead? Like, the person of Morgan is dead, but this is still the Morgan body.
Yes, because you did see because there was a moment where you saw from Morgan's perspective being consumed by like a Typhon organism. So yes,
Yeah,
But
because
that-
Morgan had gone too far into the experiments.
I think this
so
is
he's a
just,
human Typhon hybrid. Yeah.
Yeah.
when we're talking about this, right? This ending, it is. I think it does kind of showcase that the story is overall disappointing. Because I remember when the game first started up, when you were being, put through that actual simulation, where you're, through these engineered scenarios where you're just now going to the Talos one and you're prepping to go there, doing tests and whatnot. It was very like I kind of suspected there was something not quite right, even when you were going on the helicopter. And then the moment when you break the glass, and you just like. You're in a chamber. You're in a test chamber. Really cool, impactful moment. When you had the mimic that was the coffee cup that the doctor was looking at, and he's like, "Well, I didn't. Did someone bring me this thing?" And then he gets killed. Really interesting story. Yeah, exactly. It really like cool story moments like that from the get go, and then it just kind of fizzles out to where we're having a simulation be done by a person we can or that is or isn't Morgan. It's hard to tell. I
had interpreted it as. This thing is no longer Morgan, but there's still humanity in it. So let's try and imprint what was the human Morgan back onto this thing.
That's part. It's kind of left vague,
so that it will come back and be our superhero or whatever. But I mean, overall, like, I don't think this is like the greatest story ever. I think it's cool. I think it's interesting. And it did make me want to go back and replay and see Ultimate Evil and Ultimate Good ending. Did we all get the same ending, even though I didn't do any of the side shit?
No, I got the fully empathetic ending.
What does that entail?
You saved people, like you did all the good, your good boy things.
They talk about how I did everything for each of the characters.
Okay, but then they just make a judgment of like, hey, should we kill this thing or should we free it, and then they just vote yes to free it.
Yes.
Well, I feel like if you don't do some of those things, then they'll vote no and you die.
Yeah, they will vote no, but I pretty much beelined it, except for saving that one doctor out in space, and I think that was the one thing that ticked me over to the good side. And then also I just wasn't a dickhead and didn't like purposely kill anybody. And so they voted me yes. It was like a 3-4 vote. Like, I didn't get everybody, but I did win the vote.
I got 4 out of 4.
Yeah. So I just don't think like that makes me think there's like literally like 3 endings to the game where it's like kill everybody, they kill you, or you save the world or whatever.
I think there are only 2 endings.
Well, there's got to be inherently 3, because if you lose that morality check, that's 1. You win the morality check, and you choose to join them. That's 2, and then you choose to kill them.
3 different types of endings.
Did you guys what did you guys do with the space station?
I saved it.
I blew it up.
I also blew it up.
Yeah.
I blew it up, but I made sure people got out.
Yeah, there's another really weird thing the story does where it tells you about another way just to kill everything, all the Typhons, but not blow up the station, and then it never did.
No, I could have done that.
But it never
that's a fake out though.
Yeah.
That's an evil option. That will be a negative impact to your morality or whatever. What Phil did is the right thing to do, where it's like get everybody out, but blow everything up. I think just as valid as just kill everything or just blow everything up rather, because you just can't let any of this escape.
Well, the reason that those people are okay to go is because they didn't have any neuromods installed.
Ah, gotcha. And this is why they don't turn into phantoms or anything.
Right.
Okay,
So were you
great.
able to get them out? Like they left physically?
Yeah, like they had a shuttle. Yeah.
That was the thing. I never I thought the shuttle thing was going to come in later, but it never did. So I never got them out.
No,
Not
so
explained.
you get there's the guy that shows up with the military
Yeah,
drones.
I did all that.
And then you use his shuttle because you like what's the term? You like
Hijacking.
yeah, basically you take his neuromods to reset his memory to before. So he's like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna get you guys out of here.
Yeah, I
So
should
then
have.
they end up going on the shuttle with
That's
him.
another like problem I have with this game is they try to give you in the main plot a sense of urgency of like, hey, we have to go do this right now. But then you can just go off and do hours and hours of side missions to like make sure you get the ultimate good ending and shit.
Unless they put a timer on the screen.
Oh yeah, then you got to go and save the person within like 2 hours, which is a ton of time, which I appreciate.
No, it was like 2 minutes.
Where's the 2 minutes? I've never seen.
2 minutes?
Oh no, sorry, not 2 minutes. It was like I think it was like 5 minutes or like 6 minutes.
I don't know.
There's
like
one
10 or so.
there was one that I had to do with 6 minutes, which was him trying to turn all the oxygen into nitrogen or whatever.
Yes, I think that was. I think that was 20 minutes.
Was that 20 minutes? Okay.
Yeah, you had some
10.
time because I did that one. I didn't like purposely do it. I just like continued my progress and I did it. Like it happened in the background, and that's my thing.
Did you just
is,
kill
like,
that guy or?
the military guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was like trying to break into Alex's office, and I had the option to spare him and to like figure out a way around it for like a true pacifist thing. But I was so close to the end, and I was just so pissed off at the game that I was like, "Fuck it."
No,
Dead.
he didn't. He never had a thing where he was trying to break into Alex's office for me. He was like just in the O2 area, and I just sucked out the oxygen, so he passed out.
This is one of those like he will end up in different spots depending on the choices that you're making. And choosing where to go and when you choose to go to do these things. Because yeah, he is supposed to, because that's a trap he's setting is to go save the people who are being poisoned by the air. But if you don't do that and beeline it to the game or to the end of the game, you can find him trying to break into Alex's office, kill him, and then still save those people somehow.
Oh,
I don't know how I saved them, but I did.
interesting.
And then you're meant to like go and like support them getting to the escape pods, which is a different thing than what you were talking about, Phil. You can get them to the escape pods, but if you choose to just beeline it to the end of the game like I did, all the important characters make it to the escape pods. It's all of the like random NPC filler characters who die. And I'm like,
Did you guys save Walton
that's
Goggins?
acceptable losses.
Oh, what was that guy again?
Walton Goggins. He was in the volunteer testing area.
I did, yes, and then he
You
died.
saved him.
Oh my god, that was Walter Goggins' character.
Walton Goggins. Yeah.
He voiced him. Oh my god, I had no clue. Yeah, I spared him, and then I went back there just coincidentally, and a phantom killed him. So I was like, okay, well,
Oh no.
Are we talking about the guy who ends up in the like the
Prison
doctor
test.
like? Oh, I don't know who we're talking about because I
Yeah,
skipped
no,
so much
so-
content.
No, so this guy, he's in like the cage where you can basically unleash a mimic to like kill him, or you can just open the door and let him out.
Oh yeah, him. Yeah, he gives you like a fuck ton of neuromods if you let him out, don't he? Or maybe
I
he
don't
gives you a
remember.
code. He gives you a code.
He gives you a
for-
code to open
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
Oh, it's the
Where you-
armory where you can get the shotgun.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. You can get multiple shotguns.
Yeah. I did like
he's
that.
played by
I-
Walton Goggins, who's one of my favorite actors.
he is amazing.
That's funny. I forgot about that guy. I never went back and saw him again, but I hope he's okay. I mean, obviously not.
I think I stopped by like 2 more times throughout the game just because I was passing through and I was like, "Hey, what's up?"
That's funny. I'll say I appreciate how much content's in this game. A lot of content, and it is your choice to engage with how much of it you want. It doesn't really affect your ending. Like, I mean, it can affect it a little bit, but like, you know, you only have to do the main stuff if you only want to do the main stuff. I want to mention digging back into gameplay, into systems. I think having 3 different bars that you have to upkeep the exact same way was a mistake. I think like health, armor, and your psychic abilities all functioning the exact same way is another cause of frustration because all of the things that you need to carry to improve these things don't like they often like I spent most of the game below 50% armor. Just because I did not find enough armor packs to upkeep it. And I think I never had a problem like using the psi packs or whatever to keep my abilities up. But I just think that having that be another function of the game makes me want to use it less because it attributes to the like sort of resource management of the game. But it's just too much for the type of game that it is. That one should have been on like a regen or something, or maybe like regenerate to a certain point. And I forget, maybe there's upgrades for that, but like it also takes fucking forever to get upgrades in this game because of how expensive they all are and how rare neuromods are. I almost always just save to buy neuromods or bullets, or med kits. And that's
this
really
is a survival game.
I never even created med kits because there were so many of them just in every building. I never really needed to use them because there's so much food also.
Yep.
Rain out all the time.
Really? There's
And
the well-fed bonus where you can
I felt like scavenging and clearing rooms was a disservice to myself because it felt like clearing every room took way too many resources, and you would have to clear it in order to scavenge the resources because the stealth in this game is fucking ass.
Yeah.
Do you have maybe? Tell me if I'm wrong. Right?
Okay.
Is this simply a skill issue, Tavin?
Ooh.
Because you're having problems me and Phil aren't having. We blew through resource wise pretty simply.
I'm more than willing to admit that maybe I'm just bad at game. But I don't think I am because when I play other Arcane games, I fucking crush that shit. When I play like Resident Evil 2, which I think is the greatest survival horror video game of all time, crush that shit. No difficulties upkeeping my resources, no difficulties exploring the mansion or the police department ever. Yeah, maybe it's just this. Maybe it's a fluke. Maybe this game just doesn't speak for me. But yeah, I just think I think the percentages of everything are off in this game. There's too many enemies. They're too aggressive. The stealth is too bad. The running away is not a good enough option. Like you can run away and it's a valid option, but like it's not a good enough. Like running away in Resident Evil games, at least the more survival horror Resident Evil games, is a very valid option. Like that is just as much of an option as engaging with the zombies or engaging with the enemies in those games. In this one, running away or running through it, you're gonna take a bunch of damage, probably take a bunch of damage, and like you're just gonna get lost because of the maze-like experience of the environments and stuff. And I think it's partly because of how vertical the game can be. Whereas like Resident Evil, you're playing on one plane pretty much. You're working with them. Like you'll go up some stairs maybe, but like that's just stairs. Where this, it's like you'll go into zero gravity, which I did enjoy the zero gravity. I liked how that functioned.
Yes.
You'll go like up some elevators or down some elevators, or certain rooms are connected in weird like workaround ways. So like running around and getting lost here is more detrimental to you than running around and getting lost in the Raccoon City Police Department. Which I feel like I can compare these two games because they're only 2 years apart. This game did not affect the development of Resident Evil 2. There's no way.
No.
This is a very easy game to compare to Resident Evil because at the core of the game, it is a survival horror game. It does feel like it. I don't think it succeeds that much in those areas. But it is. It has the makings of one. It's not one of the best ones. I don't know where. I don't have no clue where you guys are going to put this on the list.
I do.
Well, maybe it's more Tavin. I do, but less Phil.
I do.
Well, let's get to that. As a real quick aside, I loved the touch with the AI with the weapon wheel. How if you have too many things in your inventory, it breaks out and turns into a spiral. Did you guys see this?
I have not seen that. Oh.
No, yeah. If you have, instead of like shrinking the icons or making them smaller to fit them all in there, they keep them all the same size. And I started like filling up my space, like because I would have EMPs and recycler charges and the crossbow and the shotgun and like all these things and all these different powers and abilities and stuff.
Yeah. The crossbow I did not use at all. Anytime I would come across a crossbow or the bolts, I would immediately recycle it.
I held on to it for a while because I thought, like Connor said, it might be used for stealth, but it just got me caught Like, and until I was like,
Yeah.
all right, so it's what the fuck is the stealth? And so, but like if you have too many items to where it fills up the wheel, it breaks off and turns into a spiral, like a 3D
Oh, that's
effect
funny.
spiral. It's really fucking cool. Let me see if I have.
That is cool.
I might have an example of it in this B-roll.
See, because I never did enough psionic abilities to grow it out that far.
Yeah, I only had 3. I had one which let you do the blast. I had one that let you like teleport, which wasn't very useful. I wish I'd never gotten that one.
Worst arcane shift ability ever.
Yes,
Like
terrible.
Terrible.
The most useful ones were the kinetic blast and the being able to use things from far away.
I didn't get the
like
far
the
away
research.
one. I had the kinetic blast, and I had another one that was useful, and I can't remember it right now. I think it was maybe it was like some kind of leech ability. Oh, that's what it was. It was the psi block, so I could block phantoms from using their powers.
Gotcha.
That was really useful. But I just wanted to add that last little thing, gentlemen. Let's get to ranking. Ladies and gentlemen, every month we come to you, we review a game, and we rank it amongst the other games that we've reviewed in the Two Penny Game Club, which is your monthly video game book club. On the list so far, we have number 1. Excuse me. Pardon me. Number 1, God of War Ragnarok. Number 2, The Last of Us. Number 3, Hades. Number 4, Yakuza 0. Number 5, Portal 2. Number 6, Dishonored. Number 7, Chrono Trigger. Number 8, Resident Evil. Number 9, Portal. Number 10, Resident Evil 4. Number 11, Shadow of the Colossus. Number 12, Halo Combat Evolved. Number 13, Uncharted 1. Number 14, Arkham Asylum. Number 15, Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze. Gentlemen, I'm going to go ahead and start the bidding because I think I'm the most obvious choice here. While there are elements of Prey that I appreciate very, very much that could arguably raise it higher on the list than where I would personally put it, I think overall the combat loop doesn't work. I think the story is forgettable outside of a couple of cool moments and a couple of cool twists. And I think, as I said at the beginning, all the ingredients are here for a great game. But they're all in the wrong proportions, which makes this, in my opinion, a mediocre game. So I'm going to put this at number 16, bottom of the list, underneath Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze.
Connor, what are your thoughts?
Well, I will not put it below Batman Arkham Asylum. I did not put Tropical Freeze that low. It's one of the lower ones. Like I said, at a certain point, I started enjoying myself through this game. There was that low point that I have to keep bringing myself out of when I'm thinking about my experience of this game, because that was so pronounced. Because when it started getting to the more elevated levels, it still wasn't so amazing that I could put it above Halo Combat Evolved. So really,
Absolutely
it was
not.
down underneath that level, and I think I'm going to put it at the new number 13, replacing Uncharted Drake's Fortune.
Going
Just 'cause
above Uncharted, but below Halo.
Yeah, those like everything in that list, if it does succeed, if it does fit right in that spot, all games below that have no replay value. Halo Combat Evolved has replay value and is a core fun game from beginning to end.
Uncharted has a little bit of replay value. Like, I personally, I cannot justify putting this above Uncharted. Where was I going? I do want to pause real quick before we get the final vote with Phil here. And I want to have a conversation because Starfield is coming out, is out, depending on what version you buy. The reviews are out. And overwhelmingly, it seems like the opening hours of Starfield are not the most enjoyable part of the game. It's all in the latter part of this game, of that game. And now here we are with Prey, reviewing Prey and another Bethesda game, even though it's a different development studio. I think it takes around 60% of the way to the game to get good or to get tolerable, in my opinion, when we're talking about Prey. And now I'm reading reviews and a bunch of people are saying, it takes like 20 to 30 hours to get to the good part of Starfield. What percentage of the game is acceptable to, like, be not fun in order for it to still be a good game? Because to me, if I'm doing more than 10 hours and I'm not having fun, that's bad.
That's not good, yeah.
Connor?
Yeah, I mean, like, I wouldn't go so far as to say this game was 10 hours of just, a dredged, like a wading through muck experience. But
I can, because my playthrough was exactly 20 hours, and it wasn't until like hour 11 or 12 where I started having moments of fun.
and see, that's where I differ, because a lot of these
mine
games
was about 3 or 4 hours.
3 or 4 hours. Damn, okay.
Yeah.
That's way better than 10 hours.
Yeah.
So like, I put it in the spot I do because games like Uncharted, games like Batman: Arkham Asylum, Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, it gives you an experience that's across the board. You know, there's not really a lot of waving motions that the gameplay quality goes up and down.
All right.
I worded that terribly, but this game just. At least there's a lot of good parts of it later on in the game, whereas some of the other ones just kind of had a mediocre level throughout.
I'm gonna
overall.
I'm somewhere between you guys. I don't want to say exactly where yet. My thing is I'm kind of with Connor where I could see myself replaying this, and I would definitely, I feel like, reach for this before I reach for Uncharted 1 again. However, I would not reach for this before reaching for Arkham Asylum again. And so, I think where I have to put it is the new number 15.
Above
Tropical
Donkey Kong, but below Arkham Asylum.
Yeah.
Does anybody want to have any arguments to sway anybody one way or the other, or are we all lock in our places here?
I'm fine putting it at a 16. But here's what that's just because, like, I don't know. I feel like looking back on DK Tropical, I was kind of disappointed with how much everyone was hyping it up. So I don't know. I feel like I was more engaged with this game than DK.
See, it's just that, like, I was never frustrated or angry at Donkey Kong. I was never frustrated or angry at any of these games we've played. This game pissed me off. Like, I would pause, I'd throw the controller down and walk out of the room and be like, and literally say out loud, I cannot stand this game.
See, I didn't have that kind of reaction with DK. I was never really angry at it. I was just like, oh yeah, I mean this looks really good and some of it's really satisfying, but like I think overall I'm not really feeling anything. It was kind of a mad game, to be honest.
Well, I can relate a lot more to Tavin's experience with this game, because that was the exact same thing I thought about Arkham Asylum. So
I don't understand that, Connor. It's so easy. It's such an easy game.
It's easy. It's not difficult, but it's just
a power fantasy
and boring. It's
really
not even a good.
yeah.
It is okay. If we're arguing it's a power fantasy, it's a terrible one at that as well. You don't feel like super badass as Batman. You feel clunky. You feel like you
don't whoop 10 goons' asses and not feel powerful.
I do. You see, Shadow of Mordor. You cut the heads off orcs. You cut them down.
That's just violence, Batman, Connor. Who cares about violence?
It's the same kind. No, because it's the same kind of
kill people, so it's not as cool.
It's the same kind of vibe. But in this one, he's just going down there and he's beating the same guys that, of course, in our world are intimidating because they're hardened criminals. But it's like to Batman, it's like, oh wow, the guy comes out with the stun gun. Oh, that's terrifying. That scares you. Oh, you get the big guy every now and then.
The stun effect is really annoying. When you get hit
by
it, I don't like it.
Exactly.
Messing with your screen.
Arkham's got like an all right story though. Like I mean, it's pretty by the books, like comic book, but like it's an all right story. Like, and the performances are solid, even though like it's not my favorite version of any of those, or not my favorite example of any of those actors in those roles. But like, it's still fun.
Tavin, I'll go ahead and just so we can. I mean, put this thing on the board.
Phil, put it where you put it. You are the deciding vote here.
Oh,
well, that's how this works.
No, because I thought it was because 2 out of 3.
The way it works is because you put it at 15. I'm putting it at 16. So like if we were to do like a raise your hands if you think it's better than shit, I would drop out immediately. You and Connor would push it up to 15. We'd go, all right, is it better than Arkham Asylum? Connor would go forward, but you wouldn't. I have to explain this every month.
Okay. Yeah, okay. I think new 15 for me.
And that's where it lays. ladies and gentlemen, the new ranking of the video game book club, the Two Penny Game Club, is number 16, Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze. Number 15, Prey. Number 14, Batman Arkham Asylum. Number 13, Uncharted Drake's Fortune. Number 12, Halo Combat Evolved. Number 11, Shadow of the Colossus. Number 10, Resident Evil 4. Number 9, Portal. Number 8, Resident Evil. Number 7, Chrono Trigger. Number 6, Dishonored. Number 5, Portal 2. Number 4, Yakuza 0. Number 3, Hades. Number 2, The Last of Us. Number 1, God of War Ragnarok.
And now,
What a list.
best part about this.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, we go to the Grand Game Club Roulette. I've titled it. And we find out what we're playing next month. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to put a little asterisk on this episode right here because we are at the beginning of September. And in the year of our Lord, 2023, this is a hellscape for video game releases. All of the big major video games are coming out. Starfield releases in a couple of days from when we are recording this video. From there, we have Lies of P, Assassin's Creed Mirage, Spider-Man 2. We have Super Mario Wonder, Alan Wake 2, Lords of the Fallen, and more that I haven't even, I have just forgotten. But, so, I'm going to put an asterisk next to this one. October, we're pretty much just going to have to skip. There's too many games in October.
Yeah.
We're pretty much just going to have to skip that one.
Yep.
September is a tricky one because we still have quite a few big releases. So if the game is too big, I'm going to punt this episode all the way to probably December. And we're just going to go a couple of months without a new Two Penny Game Club just because of how many game releases and how many game reviews we're going to do on the channel. So we need time to play all these things. We are, of course, 3 people who do this for the love of the game. We all have full-time jobs. I'm a full-time student, and we all have lives outside of this. Me and Connor are moving at the end of this month, so it's just going to be very complicated. So if we get a smaller game for this month, you will have a Two Penny Game Club at the beginning of October, but we will not be coming back until December. But if it's too big and it's going to require more time, then we're
November, you mean?
No, December, because we just won't be able to play during October. So we'll take the month of November to play.
Oh, right. Okay, I see what you mean now.
Yes. So, also, last bit of housekeeping before we pick our things. We also are allowed a veto choice. All 3 of us get a choice we scroll the list and we allow to take one game out of rotation. The only thing is next time we roll the wheel, it does need to stay in rotation. So, for example, last month, we knocked out Final Fantasy VI. We knocked out, I gotta find it because there's so many games. I gotta scroll for it. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. And we knocked out Disco Elysium. So all 3 of those games need to stay in the list for this rolling of the wheel. However, we can knock 3 new games out of the list. Gentlemen, do you have your picks ready? Or I'm slowly scrolling through this. Hopefully the Discord feed is giving you something you can actually see. I am going to start it off with Final Fantasy VII. I'm going to take Final Fantasy VII out of the list. Just going from 6
That's where I was
7.
leaning. Something like that, yeah.
7.
Final Fantasy haters.
I love Final Fantasy, Connor. I just don't want to play it.
Long...
I'm trying to play Sea of Stars right now, Connor. I still want to get back to Octopath Traveler 2.
Sea of Stars is so good.
It's so good. We'll talk about that on some Piggy Bank here in a minute, I'm sure. But gentlemen, where are we leaning with this?
I'm going to hop on here and take off... I'm going to take off Half-Life.
Oh, that's an interesting way to go.
It's so simple. How are you guys looking at the wheel, by the way?
I'm watching Tavin stream.
There should you can look at my stream, but there should also be a link in the useful stuff.
Oh yeah, there is.
That's what I would most certainly prefer to be doing.
Which that should be an updated listing. It should be. If you have 98 games in the list, it should be updated. And it's titled Game Club Roulette.
Well, let's see here. I can't pull it up. It's only bringing up old things. But
Okay.
I'm already kind of confirmed of I'm going to be taking off Knights of the Old Republic. The reason why is that kind of RPG I'm playing a lot of in Baldur's Gate 3 right now. I'm going to be
fair.
playing a big RPG here with Starfield. So the only RPG I'd really be like super down for playing right now is Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. So I'm going to keep that on there.
Baldur's Gate 3 is also coming to PlayStation 5, and me and Phil want to play it. So, honestly,
Yeah.
might just punt this to December just for shits and giggles. It's for us to decide, okay? If
We'll
it's
see.
Metal Gear, you will get a November episode.
What are we hitting?
We'll play the remaster. Here we go with it. We got the sound on. Turn that shit off. That's annoying, and it's rotating. And we have Shovel Knight.
Shovel Knight. Okay.
Shovel Knight. Okay. Have you guys played Shovel Knight before?
I have
Not really. No.
I have. Shovel Knight is great. I don't remember it being too terribly long.
When focusing on the main objective, Shovel Knight is about 6.5 hours in length, 17 hours to 100%.
Okay, great. We can
not bad at all.
handle that.
No.
We can handle
Yeah.
that. So, ladies and gentlemen, we will be back. Do you guys want to be back in October? Or do you want to be back in November?
We will be back October 1st.
October 1st, we'll be back for that. That's right before Assassin's Creed comes out. So right before hell unleasheth upon us. Okay, so we'll do that. October 1st, we'll be back. We will skip the November episode and return on December. So, Shovel Knight, everybody play it. It's on every platform known to man. I first played it on PlayStation Vita and had a phenomenal time. I'll probably be playing the PlayStation 4 version this time around. But
Me as well, so I can get trophies.
but that is going to be it for our review of Prey. Let us know down in the comments how you felt about it. Let me know if I'm wrong or if I'm dead on the money or if you just, you understand but you disagree, all of that. And let us know how you feel about Shovel Knight and if you're excited to play that next month. Until next time, have a great time. And gentlemen, say goodbye to the people.
Bye for now.
See ya.